Vic Neufeld, Director, HAVN Life Sciences, on the Dales Report.
All right, I am happy to be joined here with a familiar face, obviously, of the cannabis industry, but now he's getting into psychedelics. Mr. Vic Neufeld joins us. How are you, sir?
Great, Chad, and you?
Good. It's been a long time since we've chatted. How are things, and what have you been up to?
Oh, things have been really good. It's good for the R&R. My golf game hasn't been improving, so don't go there. And I've been doing some angel investing, if I could call it that.
So let's start. HAVN Life Sciences, you were announced as a director last week. So walk me through it. You know, your most recent role obviously was in cannabis. So what's piqued your interest to get into the psychedelic space?
Well, I have a few markers that I look at when I'm considering making either a financial investment and or advisory role, board member role. And a few things about HAVN Life Sciences attracted me. One is the C-suite and the management team and their dedication, and really the experience and expertise they bring to the table. Really rock solid. Board members are also important to me to understand, are they genuine and with integrity? And then the space itself. And HAVN is very similar, different type of products, but health and wellness, whether it's my 21 years at Jameson or my 5 years at Aphria. When we're talking about assisting patients, ultimately consumers on the rec side, but patients, and treating certain ailments that they have using Mother Nature as the genesis, I'm very supportive. So when you combine it all, it excited me enough to participate at both shareholder level, but also as a board member.
Okay. So you talked a little bit about your background, and you have an extensive resume, obviously, in pharmaceuticals and cannabis. So walk me through. If I'm an investor, I see Vic Neufeld shift to a company like HAVN. What am I getting within that team? Where was shifting with you on that team?
Yeah, one could ask that same question back in early 2014 in terms of the cannabis space. It's a fledgling sector, the psychedelics.
Yep.
It has garnered a lot of interest, both by researchers and media. And let's face it, just like the early days of veterans using THC and CBD for their PTSD situation, very similar. There's a lot of self-microdosing that has happened for many years now in the consumer patient sector when it comes to using psychedelics. So to me, it's a very clear pathway to understanding how plants from Mother Nature, the safety, the efficacy, that is today more anecdotal, but that's where HAVN Life Sciences comes in, trying to bring some structure, some standardization when it comes to the methods and the processes of extraction of certain compounds that one day hopefully will become Health Canada sanctioned.
Makes sense. So HAVN goes public last week. We've seen some good price action over the last week or so. There's a lot of companies right now, from what I'm seeing, especially in the psychedelic space, that are having a hard time raising money. So walk me through my investor base. If you're walking into the boardroom, what do people like about this specific story, in addition to obviously the management team that's in place?
Well, I think many of the early founders, almost a year ago, and others, say 6 months ago, like myself, who have joined, what we're looking at is understanding the landscape of the patient. Yep. We've just received our Section 56. Well, that was expected many months ago, and it came to fruition finally, thank goodness. Yep. And we can now move forward with the true researching activities. But back to your point, the founders are all well-heeled. Yep. They bring a lot of personal net worth to the table. We are funded to the extent of our capital needs, OPEX needs today. However, as we all know, getting bigger in this space is better. It's expanding the reach in terms of researchers, opportunities of taking it to retail, studies, all very expensive. We're funded today. And yes, the out of the box last week on the CSE was continues to be today a very strong story. We don't expect to do any capital raises shortly.
Yeah.
And one of the commitments all of the founders made and the private placement is the warrants that were attached to those common shares. They can raise, I believe, Shad, I think the number is about $8 million internally, if and when needed. So we're well placed in terms of funding.
Do you see, like, where do you, like, when you're comparing, I guess, with the cannabis industry, like 5-6 years ago, do you see the same opportunities within the psychedelic space? Let's say in the next 12 to 24 months, can you kind of envision as to how much growth this industry will expand?
Great question. So under the old MMPR morphing MMAR, Health Canada and the Justice Department, the number that was floated was $6 to $7 billion was the illicit cannabis market in Canada. Huge. And wow. How they compile that number is unknown, but it was pretty close to reality. One doesn't know today the psychedelics, the plant-based from fungi key compounds. Psilocybin, for example, is the key active. What is out there? How many are, because it's illegal, what is that market that exists and how we want to tap into it? I look at it from more where it will grow.
Right.
And I'm a firm believer, back in Jameson days and Aphria, that patients will gravitate. They will morph to products that fit their needs. In this case, for Haven Life, it's the mental health and wellness category.
I don't think we can emphasize on that enough, really, because think of how much the world has changed the last 5 years, even from the cannabis, industry, when it, really grabbed a mainstream type attention. But challenging times, to say the least. And from what I'm seeing right now is there's a lot more research off the top in the psychedelic space versus the cannabis. Do you agree with that?
Yeah. And I may add, in Europe, many things science-driven, consumer following driven starts in Europe. And in Europe, the psychedelics have been in vogue for several years. They're more advanced than us in many areas, including research. Haven Life will try to move up that ladder rather quickly with the team we have and the relationships we have with researchers, our UBC facility, what we're doing with engagement with certain veterans. Again, looking at what is their personal menus when they try to self-treat themselves with, whether it's the cannabis world or the psychedelic world. So I really, really do believe there is a potential market here that is of significance. Will it ever hit the 5, 6, 7 billion? Probably not.
Yeah.
There are many other THC users just for the recreational side of things.
Yeah,
we're focused on standardization, using science-based evidence to bring that forward.
So in addition to you also have a former deputy prime minister on your advisory board. What's that say on paper? Because it appears to be a real asset for the company.
Well, I think it's a stamp of approval when someone with Sheila's identity and respect and integrity, that she jumped on board on the advisory role to give us guidance in areas of public policy, of regulations, dealing with Ottawa. I think she just adds another degree of credibility. And by the way, that is another big check mark on why did I join Haven? It's because of people like this. It just brings a whole environment of skill and intelligence to the table.